that I would flee far away and stay in the desert, and I would hurry to my place of shelter, far from the tempest and storm. But you know what? Often, our first impulse is to fly away from our trouble. That's the first thing that we want to do. We just want to get away from it all. We've been hurt so badly by so many different people, and we just want to kind of get away from all of it. But we need to stand still and watch the salvation of the Lord. See, often we move away from situations, but we never stand still and let God work out the battle in our own lives. But in Psalm 55 and 9, David, he said, "Confuse the wicked, O Lord, and confound their speech, for I see violence and strife in the city." But you know what? God had determined to do just that for David. He frustrated the good advice that was given to Absalom in order for somebody else to come and give him the wrong counsel, so disaster would be brought upon him in 2 Samuel 17 and 14. But you know what? Often we don't pray when we're in trouble. We don't think it'll do any good. We're in trouble, we don't pray, we just figure, you know what, I'm going to try to work it out on my own, I'm going to see how it all works out. But when we are in these distressful situations with friends, we need to pray when we're in trouble. Amen. Because God will work it out. Yes. But here in verse number 12, David said, "If an enemy were insulting me, I could endure. If a foe were raising his hand against me, I could hide from him. But he said, it was you, a man like myself, my companion, my close friend, with whom I once enjoyed sweet fellowship as we walked with the throne at the house of God." David is saying, this person was my very dear friend. This person is a friend that I went to church with. I can imagine that he and this friend, they hung out at one another's homes. They bring it in contemporary. Maybe they hunted together. They fished together. And they invested a lot of time with each other. David is saying, he said, I'm a man. He said, if it was an enemy, I would just go on about my merry way. I wouldn't pay any attention to what's going on, but he said it was a friend. It was my close companion, my close friend with whom I once enjoyed sweet fellowship. I once, past tense. You know what? Every once in a while, we got to put some folks in past tense. Every so often. Yeah, as much as it be possible, the scripture says, live peaceably with all men. Let me just submit to us today, it's not possible with every single person. And folks, that is not possible to live in sweet peace with them. Then after a while, we just need to go ahead and part ways. Is that not right, Linnell? We gotta, sometimes we gotta go on and move one direction while they move in another direction. But again, he said, if an enemy were insulting me, he said, I could endure that. I could handle that, but it was my companion, my close friend. But who was this close friend that David had enjoyed sweet fellowship with? Who was this close friend that he had enjoyed this sweet communion with? And now Zach, this close friend, has now knifed him in the back. Who was it? Was it Mephibosheth? We kind of touched on that. Mephibosheth, he was Jonathan's son. He was crippled, and David brought him into his house, treated him like his own son. I'm sure you've probably done that at some point. You brought somebody in that needed you, and you treated them like your own, and maybe they didn't do you right. Is that the person? Or maybe it was Absalom. Absalom was his own biological son, and now we see that Absalom, he betrayed David as well. But is that the person that David is talking about in this text of Scripture? It wasn't any one of those. It was Ahithophel, David's trusted advisor. The one that I'm certain David shared his innermost secrets with. He told Ahithophel everything that anybody would. I'm sure he had his social security number. He probably told him, just sign on the dotted line for me when I'm not around, Ahithophel. Whatever, you handle it, because I know you're going to do it right. I know you're going to do the right thing, Ahithophel. You're my trusted advisor. You're my trusted counselor. You're my friend. I know you'll never let me down, Ahithophel. You will always be there for me. But Ahithophel, when things got low for David, and young people, let me say to you that are here today, sometimes when things get real low in your life, I'm talking about when you're crying all night long, when you're hurting and your eyes are all puffed that you can't even go to school the next day because you're so hurt. Every so often there's an Ahithophel that will show up in your life. That close friend, the one that was always there for you for so very long, and they will sometimes betray you. But even if they do, we'll find out what we need to do if that happens in our life. But sometimes it's not even a betrayal. Sometimes it's just they let you down. Folks make mistakes. Sometimes people will let you down. And the scripture says, put no confidence in the flesh. That's why we can't put confidence in folks, because folks are always, matter of fact, you yourself will let your own self down. But Ahithophel, during David's lowest point in his life, Ahithophel, he switched sides. He went over with Absalom, David's son. He went over, and now all of a sudden he was Absalom's trusted advisor. And I'm sure when they came and told David, when they said, Ahithophel has gone over now with Absalom, I'm sure David was hurt to no end. But the question is today, who is your Ahithophel? Who is your Ahithophel? Who in your life has let you down to a degree that you feel like you can never recover? You can never trust another person. I don't know. You let the Spirit speak to you as to who that is in your life. But then the other question is, how do we deal with Ahithophels? How do we deal with them? I know how we want to deal with them. I know how we want to deal with it, and I'm sure somebody has already looked at the next verse and they're saying, preacher, preacher, they go to the next verse. That's how you deal with Ahithophels. David said in Psalm 55 and 15, he said, let death take my enemies by surprise. Let them go down alive to the grave. Well, David was upset. I didn't even pay attention to that while I was studying it. He said, let them go down alive to the grave. He didn't say let them die and then go to the grave, but let them go down alive to the grave, for evil finds lodging among them. I know somebody saying, just give the benediction, give the benediction. That's how we want to deal with Ahithophels. We want to get them. But you know what? This really, Psalm 55 and 15 is an imprecatory prayer. In the Greek, an imprecatory prayer. I'm going to give Reverend Jackson right here. He said, teach. An imprecatory prayer in the Greek is this: Lord, get them. That's what an imprecatory prayer is. An imprecatory prayer, and that is not in the Greek of saying that. That's just what it really simply says is Lord, get them. But you know what? In the scripture, we'll always find prescription and description. You know what that simply means is sometimes in the scripture it's just describing something. It's a description. And that's what Psalm 55 and 15 really is saying. But sometimes it's a prescription where it's prescribing, but that's not how we deal with Ahithophels. That's not the way we deal with them. But David said in verse number 16, he says, but I call. You know what? David kind of got in the flesh for a minute. We all get there. He got in the flesh for a minute, but then he said, but I call. And it really, but is what an eraser word. It erases all the other. But I call to God.